So we're going to talk about add-ons in Blender. You can think of add-ons as plugins in 3D and other 3D software. Basically what it does, it extends the functionality of Blender that were not originally coded into the software. So you basically can install add-ons from other third parties or develop your own. And mainly if you work at a studio or a project, there might be custom add-ons mainly to streamline your specific workflow. So most likely once you learn Blender or any 3D package in general, you'll probably be using it as a tool for a specific task or a specific workflow. And add-ons are usually designed, or plugins are usually designed to help aid that specific custom use case for your workflow. So to get add-ons or install them in Blender, you go to Edit, Preferences. You see you have all these options here. Add-ons is one of them right here. By default, you might see up here you have Official, Community, and then Testing. These two might be on by default. If you click on them, it will just filter the list for what's enabled here. So Official, you notice you also have an option, these options here, to show enable add-ons only. So what Official means, for example, or Community, these are actually shipped or installed with Blender by default. But they're just not enabled. Some of them are not enabled by default. And the main reason for that is that in most cases, you're not going to use all the features in Blender or all the add-ons in Blender. So instead of wasting time installing or computation time, they're turned off by default. And if you use it for your specific workflow, you could turn it on. You could also filter here to show just what's installed already. And you could choose all, and then you could choose the types of things, categories that are here. You could also hold Shift and click on these buttons to show multiple categories at a time. And if you download, just to mention, testing is more of like experimental. And if you download them from the internet, you can click on Install and select it off your storage medium, like your drive, to install it that way. Or if you created your own, you can install it through this. And there's also a refresh button that if you added something into the repository or the folder where these existed, but it was not listed, and you didn't close Blender, you could press the refresh button and it will requery what's there and relist it here. So we could probably show some example. Let's say import export FBX format. I see it because I see it here. Usually if you work in other 3D software or know about the FBX format, if you go into File, you have Import FBX and Export FBX. In older versions of Blender, this did not exist, so it was created as an add-on. You can see here. If I uncheck it, if I go to File, Import, you do no longer see the FBX option here because I took off the add-on, and I also can't export it, so it's not an option there. If I re-enable it, so now it's loaded. If I go to File, I have the option to load FBX. And I guess if you notice, it's at the end of the list, so it looks like it was added afterwards, after the program is loaded, whereas before it was somewhere in the middle of the list. So I guess when you start up Blender, it went through the add-ons and it loaded them at a specific order, and it was added somewhere in the middle. In this case, I unloaded and loaded again, so it looked like it was added at the end. So that's probably why we see that at the end over here. Just going to show one other add-on, just in general, to see how it works. If you worked with 3D before, you might know that kind of like the Hello World object is the Utah teapot. Well, I'll delete this. But in Blender, kind of like their go-to object is like the monkey or Suzanne here. But the Utah teapot is kind of like the Hello World in 3D. kind of like when you load in a 3D object, that the Utah teapot is what's usually created. For example, 3ds Max has it as their primitive, just like how Blender has the monkey or Suzanne as their primitive. That's specific to their software. So in the community version, if you go into community here, if you notice first, if I go to the 3D viewport and go to the add menu and go to mesh, notice these are the only things you have added, these objects. In the community version for the Blender Preferences add-on, there's one plugin or add-on where you see add mesh, extra objects, add mesh extra objects. If I click on that, what that enables in here, that if I go to add mesh, now past the monkey, I have a bunch of extra things, including like a rock generator and a couple of things like gears and math functions that could be useful. But one thing out of the extras, now you have the teapot and you have the Utah teapot in here. So that's just FYI. You could click on this to disable it. And I'll just go back to the regular options. When needed, you could add, again, you can go to File, Edit, Preferences, go to Add-ons. And you could check it in here. Maybe there's an add-on, or you could look on the internet to see if there's a specific add-on that you could use for your workflow, or you could download. And again, you could hold Shift to add multiple categories to view. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.